Have you ever seen a ghost in a place that should be filled with life? I did. It was 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, and the ghost was the pale blue light of my wife's phone screen, casting a spectral glow on her face in our darkened Chicago bedroom on North Clark Street. Her thumb was moving, a frantic little dance of betrayal I couldn't yet understand. She smiled in her sleep, a soft, secretive curve of her lips that wasn't for me. A cold dread, slick and oily, washed over me. I knew, with a certainty that defied all logic and shattered a decade of trust, that our life was a lie. And the proof was hiding in plain sight, waiting to detonate everything I held sacred. If you genuinely enjoy our stories, please subscribe to the channel. Tell us where you're from and what time it is right now. It's always fascinating to know how far our story flows. For 10 years, Amelia was my world. We built a life in a Lincoln Park brownstone, hosted dinner parties that echoed with laughter, and promised each other forever. But a shift had occurred, so subtle at first I dismissed it as stress. Late nights at the office, hushed phone calls she'd take on the balcony, the way she'd angle her body away from me in bed. It started with a receipt I found in her coat pocket dinner for 2 at a ridiculously expensive place on a night she told me she was working late. When I asked, her voice was smooth as glass. "Oh, that was a client meeting, honey. You know how it is." She was cold, dismissive, a master of manipulation. Her and her lover, whoever he was, felt untouchable, wrapped in a bubble of arrogance while I was left gasping for air in the wreckage of my own home. The breaking point came on a rainy Thursday. I'd come home early to surprise her, holding a bouquet of her favorite peonies. I found her in the living room, on the phone, her back to me. "I love you too, Julian," she whispered, a tenderness in her voice I hadn't heard in years. "He suspects nothing. He's too predictable." The flowers slipped from my hand, scattering across the wet floorboards. The sound made her spin around, her eyes wide with a flicker of panic before hardening into icy contempt. That night, the dam broke. The humiliation, the pain, it was a physical weight crushing my chest. I locked myself in the guest room, the sound of my own ragged sobs muffled by a pillow. But as the sun rose over Lake Michigan, something inside me shifted. The grief curdled into a cold, hard resolve, predictable. I would show her just how unpredictable I could be. My revenge began not with a bang, but with a click. The click of a private investigator's camera shutter. I needed proof, irrefutable and absolute. For weeks, I lived a double life. To Amelia, I was the wounded, slightly pathetic husband, trying to win her back. I suggested therapy. I bought her gifts. All the while, my pie was tailing her, documenting every clandestine meeting. The photos were like a series of gut punches. Amelia and a smug-looking man with slicked-back hair kissing in a parking garage near the Willis Tower. Their hands intertwined across a table at a dimly lit bar in the West Loop. Him leaving her car in the early morning hours. His name was Julian Vance, a consultant she'd supposedly met at a conference. I also hired a forensic accountant. While Amelia was draining our joint accounts for her romantic getaways, I was quietly moving my own assets, setting up new accounts, and preparing the legal traps. I discovered Julian wasn't just some random consultant. He was the son of my company's biggest rival, a man who had tried to ruin my father for years. This wasn't just an affair. It was a calculated strike against my family. The final piece of my plan was the vow renewal. It was Amelia's idea, a grand public spectacle to reaffirm our love and, I now realized, to solidify her social standing before she eventually discarded me. It was perfect. A stage, an audience, and a captive villain. The day of the ceremony was beautiful, sickeningly so. We stood under an arch of white roses at the Chicago Botanic Garden, our friends and family looking on. I let her read her vows first, a masterpiece of fiction about love and loyalty that made my stomach turn. Then, it was my turn. I took the microphone. "Amelia," I began, my voice steady. "You spoke of promises. But promises, like contracts, have clauses. And I recently discovered a breach of contract." A nervous titter went through the crowd. Amelia's smile tightened. I gestured to the large screen we'd set up for a photo montage. I have a different kind of montage to share. The first photo flashed on the screen. Amelia and Julian, kissing in the parking garage. A collective gasp. Her face went white. The next photo, them at the bar, then another, and another. I let the images play, a silent, brutal narrative of her betrayal. For months, I said, my voice ringing out in the stunned silence. My wife has been having an affair with this man. I paused, letting the words hang in the air. But she left out a crucial detail about her lover. She knows him as Julian Vance. But perhaps his father knows him by his full name, Julian Prescott. I turned to her father-in-law, a man I'd known for years, who was now staring, horrified, at his own son on the screen. That's right. Her lover is the son of my company's biggest competitor. The man who has been feeding proprietary information from my life to his father's company. Amelia's eyes rolled back in her head, and she crumpled to the ground in a dead faint. The chaos that erupted was just noise. My part was done. The divorce was swift. The evidence was overwhelming. The prenuptial agreement she'd laughed at years ago held firm. She was left with nothing. Her family disowned her. Her friends vanished. The Prescotts were ruined by the corporate espionage scandal. Sometimes I walk past our old brownstone. It's just a building now, bricks and mortar. The laughter is gone. The warmth is gone. All that remains is the echo of a promise, broken in the pale blue light of a phone screen.